All right. First, thanks to Teacher Brian for the invitation I had today to share with all of you, my Filipino people and other audience that Teacher Brian is, having at this point in his teaching life. So today, Teacher Juliana Vasquez from Panama is going to be sharing with you about a carbon footprint. This is a topic, sensitive topic nowadays, just because of the climate change and all that is going around in our different countries related to this topic. I'm from Panama and I teach in the University of Panama, higher education and in primary schools also. And I'm pretty glad to be here chatting with you today. Here, this is something I have included throughout my agenda for today's presentation. So I'm going to be developing these six actually core subtopics in this presentation. So without further ado, let's start into context. As you can see on the pictures, climate change is a pressing global issue going around with far-reaching consequences. The Earth's average temperature is rising at an unprecedented rate due to our influence to it throughout our human activities. But this is something that we cannot deny. And primarily because of the use of different substances, toxic for polluted substances, right? And one of those, for example, is the burning of fossil fuels. This warming is causing a cascade, let's say, this is a cascade of environmental changes that you can see in the pictures, including the rising of the sea levels, the coastal cities. I don't know, but I guess that in Philippines probably you have. And islands, they are in risk inundation. Here in Panama, for example, we have the Gunayala Islands, and the government of Panama plan to move some of the citizens from there because some of these islands were already covered by the sea levels. That's something, sadly sad at this point in life. Extreme weather events. Let's talk about the previous one you had recently, the typhoon, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that's something that in Philippines you are living very, very close. In other countries like United States, for example, the hurricanes, this one that are also passed recently that caused many damages to some of the states, mostly one, if not mistaken, was Florida. And hurricanes, drought, floods, and here in Panama, we are also experimenting those types of um, changes, but mostly related to let's see, winds, strong winds, and changes in the climate. Also, the loss of biodiversity. We are experiencing also the loss of many important animals, and some others are in danger. For example, the RP eagle. Here in Panama, there are only like two of those birds in places where they are under caution, you know. Also, the food insecurity because of the droughts and floods, that we are losing tons of food, and you know what it causes later. To have also economic disruption, many people have economic losses, especially in vulnerable sectors like agriculture and tourism. And it also caused something to me. For example, I'm not only a teacher, I'm also someone who is producing some kind of food and transportation mostly, and we have faced a very difficult situation related. But getting into context, what is that about carbon footprint? I think that you have heard about it previously. Probably yes, probably not. But according to O'Brien in 2021, says that this is the measure of the total greenhouse gas emissions caused by an individual like you and me, organization, or country. And it is often expressed in terms of equivalent carbon dioxide. But how is that when I'm walking and my footprints are causing the, carbon dioxide? Well, let's see. We commit sometimes direct emissions, like, for example, those that result directly from the activities, normal activities that we have, and also the normal organizational activities that they have. Probably they don't know, probably they know, who knows, or you don't know. All right, we are like blind in this topic. Well, some example of these ones are the owning and operating vehicles that they have, or you may have, right? What another, using electricity generated from the fossil fuels, and owning, okay, not owning, heating, cooking, and the use of transportation. Imagine, heating and cooking is also one. So it depends how we do it. Of course, using the stove and the gas. Indirect emissions, these are the ones that occur as a result of the goods and services of an individual, that you have, for example, the emissions associated with production and transportation of food, moving some food from trucks to another place, clothing and other products. The creation of these products also emit some kind of toxic substances that then get into the atmosphere, and then it causes damage. One of the potential, things of the climate change. Here you can see in the picture some of the things: transport, phone, and internet. You don't know, but right now we are having somehow of carbon dioxide emissions. This is one of our carbon footprints. Some of them in greater, some others lower, but it happens anyways. Electricity, the water depends on the consumption, gas, and the waste. Recycling is one of the things that we can use, for example, to avoid these kind of things. All right, but now let's see the classroom impact, mostly our English language classrooms, the impact that we have throughout the different changes that, that I'm just already mentioned. For example, number one, the paper consumption. This is like the excessive printing of material, worksheet, handouts that we have in our classroom. So this is one of the impacts that we are having throughout the climate change. Notebooks and journals, because they are created after a process, and throughout this process, they were probably or require energy to produce and transport, for example. Energy usage for technology, the laptops, the computers, the projectors, the charging devices, the phones that we have, all of them at certain point cause us to have carbon dioxide emissions. And we don't know, but as I told you before, some in lower risk and others in greater risk. And the transportation, for example, when we commute to school, then trying to use our own vehicles, it's something that causes the most emission of carbon dioxide. So for this, it's better to use other kind of sources that I'm going to mention in some minutes. But I'm just trying you to focus on these three that we don't know, but we think that we are doing right. But some we have to try to regulate, like if we are going to use paper consumption, at least to have something else like doing recycling or avoiding like causing too much carbon dioxide emissions. Here I have some of the schools that are working for having a less carbon footprint emission and having like more classroom or friendly, eco-friendly environmental classrooms. Here, the first one is the Green Language School in Australia. They are trying to implement sustainable practices like using solar panels, generating renewable energy, reducing paper consumption, promoting energy efficiency, like the use of the wind, for example, or the solar panel, eco-friendly areas, etc. Offering also, well, courses and events where they aware the population on what is it's ongoing. The Green School in Bali, Indonesia, they are also working throughout this path with lower steps where they are doing so. And the Waso Niro Primary School in Kenya. I have also heard some others in Philippines. You have in Manila, if I'm not mistaken, you have one school that is trying to create more eco-friendly environments. It doesn't mean that you are not going to use or do what you are used to. It means like having some reductions for better performance in the classrooms without affecting too much or causing too much damage to the environment. Uh, all right, over there, maybe you have some ideas that you can share with the teacher Brian of some schools that you have seen, or even in your own school, you can talk about it and mention if you are working in programs for sustainable development and inclusivity, for example, to have a different impact than not negative, if not positive, right, throughout this issue. And what is the role of education? After you heard some schools that are planning to do something different, and probably in Philippines, you also have others. So let's see what else we can do. For example, we can cultivate environmental awareness teachers. We can talk to our students about making some changes in our mentality, right? And trying to use less toxic materials or reutilize, for example, in our classrooms. Because if we don't do that, then we are going to have like a pivotal. This is a cycle, right? Everything that we are throwing out, it's coming back. This is similar to what you call karma, right? If you do something negative that probably in a future not so far or very far, you are going to suffer the consequences. This is the same that is happening here. And developing the critical thinking and problem solving ability. So we teachers can give our students some kind of issues happening around related to climate change, and they can talk about it, analyze the situation, and provide some possible solutions, because this is not only about criticizing. It's easy to criticize, but how about the solutions? What is your idea to solve this situation, right? Or to mitigate the situation? Provided, and fostering a sense of environmental stewardship and responsibility, mostly in the classroom. How? Create programs of utilizing materials, dividing, for example, papers from plastic, from organic materials. They use less use of paper and working in more digital things, even though I already mentioned that technology is also one of the carbon emission stuff, but we can reduce at least the process of creating paper, and it involves more than just using a phone or some slides or the computer for the classroom to develop activities. Now, some other strategies, right, that we teachers, language teachers can implement in our classrooms that I can mention, for example, integrating environmental topics in our language lessons, authentic material, look for some things that are happening around. For example, Brian, now that the typhoon happened or the storm, you can talk with your students about the situation and why it happens, how can you reduce or mitigate these in your houses, how can you prepare yourself for these situations, but in English. And then your students are going to develop not only language, also scientific articles, reading scientific articles related to the topic, integrating new vocabulary to their own vocabulary, and also, developing a more critical mind. As I mentioned, the use of authentic material with sustainability focus. Look at the picture, for example, the one you have there. How can you recycle? What things can you do back home to mitigate the situation? Even though we don't have many things, we can support. Promoting the critical thinking and problem-solving skills I has already mentioned, fostering the cultural awareness and respect to others, mostly like growing up a mind of the waste use instead of throwing it out on the streets, for example. How can we do that in our schools? Having a better or cleaner school, and encouraging language learners to become environmental advocates, not only in their classroom, also back their homes. Some other strategies, as I mentioned, reduce, reuse, and recycle. The 3 Rs are here. Reduce, like less paper consumption, for example. Reuse the paper that you use, then recycle it and try to create organic paper. You can have that project, Teacher Brian, in your classroom, how to create organic paper for doing, for example, flashcards or gift cards or something else, right, that you can use. Digital transformation, related to the use of digital stuff. This is basically exploring the benefits of the digital tools and resources in reducing paper consumption and energy usage mostly. How we can use them, like probably connected to solar panels or wind panels, right? Instead of using the electricity generated from the water treatment. Green curriculum, it means that in your curriculum, then you have volunteering, supporting maybe the state where you live or your township, for creating more programs, environmental or eco-friendly programs, or in the school. Community engagement, it means to take what you know, what you have to others, creating workshops, for example, students creating workshops, clubs, environmental clubs. So how can you, with different other students, support having more ideas to create a different mind in your community? And the teacher training, of course, is our role, Teacher Brian and me, to try to pass the information to others for them to become more eco-friendly person, individual citizens. And here, there is another thing that I want to share is the student engagement. In your classroom, you can lead initiatives like encourage other students for the sustainability projects and initiatives. You can have global citizenship, like sharing with other students from other places, like you do with Teacher Brian sometimes, and promote a sense of global citizenship and responsibility regarding to environmental issues. And the last one is the critical thinking that you have to keep to analyze and evaluate the different situations going around in your country related to climate change, and how can you provide ideas to the teachers or the government, politicians, right, to create laws to support your communities and your country for a better environmental development. And as conclusion, this is the time the time for action is now. Now is the time for action, not yesterday, not only in the future, is starting now. We have to try to change our mind. And one thing that we can compare it is when we face the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were in our houses, what happened outside? We could perceive a change in the environment. For example, the biodiversity increase, emission reductions decrease. What else? We also perceive less water or maybe climate change. It happened because we were doing things back our homes, right? And we were not emitting too much carbon dioxide outside. So it seems to be like it's only our action, but we have to care about the environment by having a different mind, trying to be the one at least who make the change. And remember, this is like a trend. If you start doing something, then it can get fashion. And some people follow the trends, fashion trends. So if you are a fashion environmental icon trend, probably some others are going to follow you. So you are the change. Thank you. And well, here I have some of the references I got to talk about this topic. Thank you so much. And I'm open to your questions, not only in this session, also you can approach Teacher Brian and make some questions for him to send to me, or you can write to my institutional email and send me your questions or doubts regarding to this topic.